All right, we are live. So it is your girl, Diamond Drip, coming to you with another planetary transit report. The planets are doing some interesting things up there as we move and shift and shake. And so it is my absolute honor to tune in with you live on a weekly basis, sometimes a couple of times a week, depending on what exactly is happening up there, to just let you know what energy is kind of in our atmosphere so that we as celestial beings, we as divine beings who are impacted by what's going on up there down here on earth can be informed and empowered with the knowledge to kind of redirect our lives as needed based on the energy of what's going on up there. So if you have not already pulled your human design chart, I definitely recommend that you head to diamonddripconsulting.com so that you can pull your free human design chart, which is an energetic blueprint of your unique energy, so that you can see, because I'll be talking about how this transit is activating a channel, which is a specific like superpower of energy that is being activated in my chart right now. And so if you pull your free chart, you will be able to see whether or not you already have some of these gate activations so that you'll be receiving an extra influence of this energy. Yeah, so before I ramble too much, I am going to get rid of this ticker. I'll put it up every now and then as needed. But let's get into it. So right now, I'm going to share my screen. Right now, so this is me normally. So one of the activations that I'll be talking about today is this, what they call the alpha channel, which is being activated by our conscious sun right now. So let me go to, that changes the mode. You've done this before, Diamond, haven't you? Okay, here we go. So right now, our conscious sun is activating gate 31, and it has a little extra je ne sais quoi with the 0.1 that you'll see right next to the 31. So I'll get into what that means specifically. But we're also having, I didn't realize this because I've reduced these reports down to just the sun and the earth gates. So I am really grateful that 7 is being activated right now. So even if you don't have the gate 7 activated in your chart normally, you are experiencing this alpha channel right now, which is something that we're going to get into. But the first gate that we're going to talk about is located in the throat. It is the gate of leadership. It's the gate of influence. And it is, I'll get into what this little arrow means. So I'm going to stop sharing that. And we're going to get into what gate 31 means. So gate 31, gate of leading, gate of influence. So people who are better at showing others how to achieve goals rather than leading them to those goals. So great leaders, as we know, we're really great at helping other people be empowered with the knowledge and the gifts and the skills of their own unique skill sets and gifts and things so that they can go on and be better individuals, better leaders themselves. And so the channel of the alpha, the keynote is understanding. And I think that's really important when it comes to leading, when it comes to being of influence, is being in that space that is understanding and empathetic of the individuals who we feel called to serve. So the holders of this gate 31 can be very powerful, provided that they open their mouths at the right time. And so I'll give you an example of how this showed up for me. And it's crazy because when I do these transit reports, I always try to gather as much information as I can about the gates themselves. But when it comes to the stories, when it comes to the real life examples that I'm trying to bring into these transit reports, I really can't, like, there's some sort of block in my mind around like bringing in specific stories because I'm not being affected by that energy yet. So yesterday, when my assistant was helping me with the blog post, he was like, "Oh, do you have any stories yet?" And I really wanted to just like have something for him, but nothing showed up until we stepped into the energy of today. So I'm a part of a anthology called Destiny Exposed. And in that anthology, we meet on the first and second Tuesday of every month until the book launches in September. So definitely stay tuned for that. I'm really excited. And so the last meeting that we had, we did a couple of examples where we were able to go through a few people's Shiro's journey, because they're all women leaders, which I love as a part of this project. So we went through our Shiro's journey, and I was one of the people that kind of volunteered to be a guinea pig and live go through this process of pulling out some of the things that will be shared in that chapter. And one of the things that is a part or will be a part of that chapter is really how I came into the knowing of human design and why it is so impactful, so much so that it kind of forced me to pivot and shift in my business, because I know how needed and necessary this work is of people understanding who they truly are at soul level and on an authenticity level, and not who they were conditioned to be because their friends said so, or their family said so, or society said so. And so in this process, I began to, I went through the journey of how I came to it. And then as we step into the framework, and as we stepped into the framework more, and I was able to share why it is my mission to awaken people to, like I said, who they truly are, I was talking about human design. And so usually I never really, and I think this is my completely open throat, I usually never feel like, unless everything is aligning, I usually don't feel really confident when I start talking about human design, especially if I've been talking about it like all day or all week or what have you. It kind of just sometimes feels like it might fall on deaf ears. And so even though I was talking about my journey and how I discovered it and how impactful it's been for me, I kind of was in my head about like whether other people were receiving it as impactful as I found it. And so it was one of those things where like I got through the exercise and I was grateful that I got through it, but because there wasn't any, we live in this society now where instant gratification is something that we really crave, especially with like engagements and like human interaction, that because there wasn't an immediate response or reaction to it, I kind of got in my head about whether or not that should be something that, or it should be the story, it should be something that I bring out. And what ended up happening today, which I can never plan the stories that will come from the transits that are happening. Someone was watching the replay. They weren't able to make it live, and they were able to watch the replay. And somebody put in our group chat, they were like, who was the person that was talking about human design? I didn't catch her name. And I was like, what? because I saw the notification. I was like, someone is like asking about human design. This is awesome. Like, I feel like I thought I was like losing people. And so it was one of those instances where, she had already had her chart read. She had, I believe she had had a reading. And so the person who did that deep dive with her, they kind of just disappeared. And so when she heard me talking about it, especially so passionately, the way that I do, she was like, who is this person? And I was able to reach out and be like, that was me. Like, have you had your chart read? Do you remember what you are? Like how I get when anyone is excited about their human design specifically. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you? What's your energy? What's your authority? And it's one of those things where I didn't think that it was necessarily the right time, but because I know through my design that sharing what I'm going through as I'm experiencing it, because we sometimes get to this place where we're like, I want to be here before I, go and I teach and I share, my story, my journey. Like we're like, we want to be here. But the problem is with that, especially for me, knowing that I am a force of continual expansion in the world, is that here is just gonna, there's gonna be another here and another here and another, like there's gonna be like, we're never done growing. We're never really done like cooking all the way until we leave here. And then we look back on our work that we did and we start to see the patterns, and it's like they say, hindsight is 2020. Hindsight is always 2020. And so this was another one of those instances where I know that even though I'm in a group full of these powerful women leaders, we all have our stuff. We all have imposter syndrome sometimes. And so because I know this, and because I also know what it's like to lead a group call in that capacity, I know that it takes that brave person to be the person who's like, I want to share, I want to do this, so that one, the person who's hosting the call has something to work with. And so that the people who are on the call can see that it's not so bad. We make up these stories in our head about like all of the ways it could go wrong, or if we might say the right thing. Like we make up all of these stories, and it holds us back from really stepping into our true leadership potential and sharing from experience. That I was questioning whether or not I had opened my mouth at the right time. And it was imperfect timing, because when the person watched the replay, she was like, I loved, hearing your Shiro's journey. I love that you do human design, because my person like disappeared. And today has just been one of those days of just confirmation after confirmation that I am in fact on the right path, even though my open heart center, the not self question that comes out of that is, do I think I have something to prove? Even though the open throat, it's like, am I seeking attention? Even though I have those shadows of my open centers, I keep making sure that I step beyond those not self limitations, because I never know who I might impact. Even with these live streams, I don't necessarily plan them. I'm trying to do better at that so that there's at least a consistent time, but there are times where there's gonna be two transits in a week, and I may not be able to plan the nice, structured marketing that we're taught of, like, oh, you have to go live every Monday at 10, blah, 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 blah. Like, I may not be able to do that, because if we have a transit, twice in 1 week, like we did recently, and I only plan to go live on Mondays, then I have to wait to give people the information that they need to make more informed decisions. And so it's one of those things where, okay, these aren't planned. People may not show up live because they kind of just happen. However, the people who are watching the replays are able to get the information that they need. So going back to the gate 31, this gate of leadership, this gate of influence, despite their power, if you have this gate 31, which we're all experiencing some of this energy right now, if you have this gate 31, despite their power, they cannot offer their leadership to others, but gain influence if they are invited or elected. And so this was a perfect tie-in to the energy that we're experiencing, because I was invited to volunteer live on that call because I had already been in my head and I'd been struggling with writer's block and all of the things that I'd reached out beforehand for some support. And so I had been invited as that second person to go and to share my story. And so when it comes to this gate 31 energy, they're like political figures leading humanity to a brighter future. When they talk about it, they're always readily listened to. However, and so I love that I was able to see that 31 and the gate 7 are being activated, because the gate 31 is simply the gate of leadership. It's not, it's whether that leadership is good or bad. So you could have this gate activated, but if you're not aligned, if you don't have that active gate 7, the person who is then, sharing from this I lead gate 31, it may seem like a mouthful, as they don't really have, without that gate 7, they don't have that power or that sense of identity with what they're saying, which is why, and this is so crazy to me, which is why on a normal basis, I have this gate 7. And so yesterday, I only had gate 7. So trying to come up with a story to tell of how I had been experiencing this gate 31, I didn't have one because it wasn't activated in me yet. I hadn't yet experienced this full, complete channel. So for me to have, and this is something that I love about knowing your design, for me to have tried to come up with a story about how this 31st gate was impacting me, I would have had no identity with what I was talking about because I hadn't yet experienced it yet. I had the 7, so I had the clear sense of identity, but I didn't have that 31 energy, if that makes sense. And so when we look at, I'm going to share my screen again real quick. When we look at the 31, so we have both gates being activated right now. When we look at the 31, we see that there's a little decimal. What is happening with the way I'm talking right now? We see that there's a 0.1. And so what does this mean? Pardon me, this is live. I'm going to drink some water. My mouth is dry. Okay, so with the line 1, there was a little arrow pointing up. And so when we look at the line 1, it's about manifestation. And the keynote is influence cannot exist in a vacuum. And so when we look at the fact that it is in a triangle that's going up, that simply means that it's being activated by the sun, and the sun does not / cannot hold back its light and thus its influence on every life. So when we have this 31 activated in the sun, that's what gets us that upward triangle. It's the natural expression of leadership. And so when it comes to this 31, you know me, I always like to give you the skinny, because while it's great to live in the gift of this gate 31, so a natural ability to be influential with their innate leadership skills, they operate best when showing others how to meet their goals rather than being the one to lead them themselves. And also in the gift expression, they provide a vision for a new direction and show others how to achieve it rather than doing it for them. And so that's the gift of this gate 31. Due to conditioning, we sometimes will lean into the shadow of this gate. And so when we're looking at the shadows, when we look at the repressive, the person who has this gate represses their leadership abilities and defers their power to others out of fear of being seen as arrogant. In the reactive version of the shadow, they can see themselves as above others. They can see others to be inferior to them and therefore tend to be disrespectful to the same people that they influence. So it'll be really interesting to see how this gate, especially because I know I don't watch the news because it's usually all just depressing and whatnot. If there's something big enough that happens, someone will tell me about it. But what I've heard is that there's been a lot of transition around the political landscape recently when it comes to the presidential campaign. And so it'll be really interesting to see how this activation that we're experiencing with the 31 and even with the 7, to see which of our leaders are kind of living in the repressive versus the reactive. And so when it comes to you specifically as a leader of your life or of your business, here are some reflection questions that you can begin to contemplate fresh, because we just entered into this transit today, that can help you kind of process this energy. So how do I feel about being a leader? What can I do to feel more comfortable with leading? And then the last question is, what is my place of service? Who do I serve? And I love that this is coming up for me right now in this week, because this is the perfect time for me to kind of get out of that limbo. Last year, I really branded myself as this business coach with the AI tips and tools and the hacks and getting visible with video and how to increase your confidence and get out of imposter syndrome. Like, it was really this big push. And then I discovered human design, and it struck a chord with me the way that it did. And I made a pivot in my business. So much so that if someone comes to me and they're not open to spirituality, if they're not open to doing the deep personal shadow work on themselves, then I don't really even want to talk about business, because that's going to lead to them creating offerings, creating social media content, creating a whole gamut of things that are out of alignment, that they're just gonna, like, whenever this phase of fear or self-doubt or whatever it is that they're experiencing, when it passes, they're gonna feel out of alignment with the things that we spent so many months and sessions working to create. So if they're not open to the spiritual, if they're not open to personal growth, personal development, then that is now starting to be a disqualifier for, people who I meet. And so when I start to think about like, what is my place of service? Who do I serve? These were things that I already came into this week mulling over. So to know that I have the extra influence of this energy happening right now is beautiful, because this is the perfect time to get clear on what my place of service is, on who it is that I serve truly. And so I mentioned that we have the entire channel of, let me see, the entire alpha channel. So 31 is being activated by the sun. And so what that means is that this is probably going to change. Where is it? Blah, 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 blah. It's changing so quickly. Where is it? Let me see. Oh, I can click on it. Yeah. And things and such. Does it tell me? Does it tell me how long? I don't know how long we're going to be in this transit for. I think until, if memory serves, we're going to be here for another 6 days, if I'm not mistaken. And so what's also being activated right now is the gate 7. And so that creates, when two gates connect to each other, as you see here, the 31 and the 7, that is what we call a channel. So that's an extra special of this leadership energy. And what I was referring to, I naturally have this 7. And so what is the 7 that we're experiencing? I know I normally only talk about the sun and the earth gates during these lives, but I think that this is really important. It's really key for you to understand. So the gate 7 is the gate of the role of self. And so when you are in the gift expression of this, it's a natural impulse and ability to lead, but these energies are meant to be recognized or invited to lead first. Often put into leadership roles by a group, i.e. elected, through promoting and supporting shared interests of others. They know how to provide guidance to achieve their goal. And so when these two energies combine, it's the gift of the influential leader. And the keynote of this is sharing. And as I said before, it's an understanding of the collective circuit group, which circuits are something that we can totally get into if you want to book a private reading. I'll plug the website down there again. But when these two energies combine together, there's the ability to be a leader who can point out new and trustworthy future directions for others. You are designed to be a leader who leads from a position of influence rather than one of absolute authority or ruling by extremes. This type of leadership is democratic in nature, as you gain influence by understanding and taking into consideration the interests of those who come to you. The key to your success is trusting and believing in your abilities as an influential force. So this is some really powerful energy for the entrepreneurs and the executives who are in my network, because this is the time to really get clear on those things. Okay, I'm gonna take away the little ticker there. So as we move into the earth, because we just talked about the sun, as we move into the earth gate, we have activated this 41. And the 41 is in the root center. Let me get rid of me and just do the transit. So this 41 is in the root center. And so as above, so below. Both the root and the crown are pressure centers. So up here is the pressure to think. Down here is the pressure to act. The not self question that comes out of this as am I in a rush to get things done so I can be free of the pressure? And so because we know that this is a pressure center, it's as it's activated by the earth, it's a balancing energy for that. I'm going to stop that share. And so get my notes. So gate 41, it's perfect that it is the balancing energy because this is the gate of contraction. This is the gate of what sometimes is called decrease. So it's an emotional energy regrouping before the next action, which is why when you look at the gate 41, it's kind of reaching towards the solar plexus. So it's people who are constantly driven by the impulse to experience new feelings. It creates the pressure to seek new sensations it creates the pressure to seek new sensations through feelings, fantasies, delight, and this is why it's super important for me to continue doing this work, especially this week, because it's also the longing to find your purpose. Often, this pressure is felt as an anxiety and anticipation of something new, but only an active 30th gate can crystallize this feeling into a specific desire. Without the active gate 30, you may know that you want change, but you may not know exactly what that change is. So this is something that, even though I don't have gate 30, I'm just going to share my screen again. And then also, I'm going to encourage you just one more time, to pull your chart. Okay, so if we look at here, so as you can see, this is what's in green is what's being activated by the transits right now. What's in blue is what I normally have. So I normally don't have this gate 41. And as you can see, I normally don't have the 30. So I can't speak to what you experience with that specific desire, but I can speak to this feeling of change. And it was activated first in me specifically by the work that I was doing throughout the last transit. And so, I just wanted to share that. You can see that it's reaching towards the solar plexus here, which is like that feeling. And so if you have this gate, if you're not sure if you have this gate or not, definitely go to the website, Diamond Hook Consulting, and pull your free chart. But if you have this gate, you're going to experience like extra special superpowers there when it comes to this energy 41 that we are experiencing. And so when we look at the gift expression of 41, it's a rich imagination that leads them to many experiences, driven by the urge to experience new feelings. Oftentimes, someone with this gate will daydream about all the possibilities and fantasize while feeling the pressure to bring them into a reality. So that sounds great in the gift expression when we are aligned. But again, many of us are so into the deep depths of our conditioning that we often experience these things in the shadow expression. So when it comes to the shadow expression of this gate 41, we're looking at, in the repressive, escaping life through daydreaming with no intention to manifest their dreams into the real world, live in their minds, right? And then it kind of just stops there. In the reactive form, someone who has this gate can be hyperactive in pursuit of their dreams, which inevitably leads to high stress and burnout. So we don't want either of those things. So in order, I'm going to take the website down. In order to help you discern, in order to help you discern how you're experiencing this energy, and if you are living in either one of these shadows, the repressive or the reactive, in order to help you get into that gift alignment, I'm going to obviously ask you some questions for reflection. So the first one is, how can I honor my creative power? I'll just let that one sit there for a moment. If you need to write it down or something. How can I honor my creative power? So many of us, because of our conditioning, we think, oh no, that idea is too big. Oh no, I can't do that because it's too similar to so-and-so, versus acknowledging that because so-and-so is doing it, that means that whatever it is desired. You're not going to do it exactly the way that so-and-so is doing it. You're going to have your own creative spin on whatever it is. So how can I honor my creative power? The second question is, what is holding me back from making my dreams a reality? I'm not even going to dive into that one, because oftentimes this is where I and this is one of my favorite things to say lately, especially as I end podcasts. Because usually, the podcast host will ask me, do you have any last words of wisdom to encourage our audience? And I'm like, absolutely. The limit does not exist, but fear and self-doubt will make you believe that it does. And so when it comes to this question, what is holding me back from making my dreams a reality? Oftentimes, it's ourselves. Oftentimes, it's our own self-imposed limitations that have stemmed from our thoughts that we've thought repetitively, that have turned into beliefs, and then those beliefs then hold us back. The third question is, what do I need to heal, let go of, or release to pursue my dreams? And then the last question is, how can I manage this pressure to make my dreams a reality and act only when it's in true alignment? I love that this question is coming up right now, because I've just finished, interestingly enough, I just finished a leadership bundle with one of my favorite mentors. And I gained a lot of information from those 3 sessions that we did together. She does a lot of work with quantum human design. And while I know a good deal about human design and gene keys, and even now, diving into the Akashic records, when we try to look at our own human design sometimes, and we try and put together the pieces ourselves, our minds, our inner critics get in the way of us being able to really synthesize it into a way that helps us to take confident, aligned action. And so I just finished the leadership bundle to help me get out of my own way when it comes to looking at my design and my gifts and what I'm here to do in this lifetime. And this last question is, how can I manage this pressure to make my dreams a reality and act only when it's in true alignment? This is beautiful, because the gate 31 that's being activated by the sun, this gate of leadership, this gate of influence, one of the reflection questions this week is, who am I here to serve? And this is the perfect time for me to dive even deeper, now that we've done this leadership work, into my ideal client, and what are their psychographics, what are their pain points, what are those things. And this is a natural next step that I've been offered by this mentor. So I love that this is coming up. How can I manage this pressure to make my dreams a reality and act only when it's in true alignment? Doing this deeper work, getting this playbook for my business messaging and my purpose here, and how I bring those things into my business, this is exactly aligned. So I am hopeful that these reflection questions will help you to really step into this energy that is being activated by the gate 31 and the gate 41. So leading, leadership and influence, and that balancing energy of contraction. And if you want to dive deeper into your specific gifts and traits and energy and things like that, it is my absolute honor to do readings with those who feel called to dive deeper into this work. If you're not quite ready to dive deeper by booking a reading and spending 90 minutes talking about how you can truly step into your purpose in this lifetime, then just pull your chart, pull your free chart. There's a free ebook there that is called, Health, Living in Health by Design. I think that's what I labeled it. But what it does is from the chart that you pulled, which is uniquely your energetic blueprint, from that chart, it actually pulls different things into a customized 7-page ebook that gives you some very specific recommendations on, sleep best practices, how you manage stress. And there's even a bonus tip in there that I can never remember when I talk about the ebook. But I'm releasing that pressure to be certain about everything because I trust the technology that is working in my favor, that provides this valuable information to the people who need it most. So thank you so much for spending 41 minutes with me as we talk about the transits and what's going on up there and how to avoid the possible contraction that might be showing up for you as you navigate the planetary transits. Thank you. Until the next transit.